Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 197. I know last week I made a butchers of dates and stuff. We all know that my numerical ability is very, very limited. So I know that you've come to excuse me for any mistakes that I make when it comes to numbers. I think last week I said it was the 20th of June, it wasn't, it was the 13th. But don't worry, you expect that of me, so it's not a problem. This week's show, I've got a brilliant guest on. Well, I hope he's going to be brilliant. I haven't heard from him yet. He's sitting here, he's patiently waiting. Who knows what's going to happen? But I am the nutritionist for BMF, British Military Fitness, and David is one of their sponsored athletes, and he does some mega cool stuff. So BMF were like, hey, why don't you get this guy on your show? He's really interesting. So I had a look, looked him up. He was like, hey, this sounds cool. I've got a podcast too. I was like, well, let's get on the show. David Hellard, how you doing?
Yeah, really good actually. I've just come in from a run myself, so I'm quite energised. So definitely ready to record. Looking forward to it actually.
When you just said I've just come in for a run myself, you make it sound like I've been for a run. I haven't been for a run. I rarely
That's
run.
true.
I'm going to be honest.
I was trying to do you a favour there, but also is the amount of energy you gave out. I thought, oh wow, I've got to somehow compete with that and just meet you halfway.
You got to lift your game already. That's all I'm saying. So David, there's going to be a massive amount of people that have no idea who you are. Give me a little bit of background, your journey, like what got you into kind of fitness, running. What do you do now? Let's paint a picture.
Well, I guess my journey, for about 10 years I did no sport whatsoever. From school, went to uni and was in central London and just played darts, did pub quizzes, drunk a lot, and then split up with my girlfriend and thought, I've got loads of time, let's do something. And actually I started getting man boobs a little bit, which no one wants that. So I thought, I need to do something to get myself a bit more in shape. Started doing something called the Hash House Harriers. The drinking club with the running problems, so more a social running group than a kind of hardcore running club, and then just fell in love with running really. That then took me into trail running, adventure racing, and about 5 years ago started doing obstacle racing, and that's where I met John Albon, Ross McDonald, both members, or John's now in Norway, but both members of the British Military Fitness race team. And it's amazing when you start mixing with people who are like-minded. You just keep on upping it, and so we came together really through trail racing, obstacle racing. I've now pushed more into the long distance stuff, ultra marathons, just wacky races. Ross is now a triathlete. John's now obstacle racing world champion, and so now I'm just in a position where I'm quite lucky in that, partly because I've got this podcast, Bad Boy Running, which gives me a bit of a promotional mouthpiece. It means I can go in pretty much any direction and do lots of races, and sometimes get free entry, sometimes get sponsored to go into them. And so the world is my oyster in many ways.
Nice. So you mentioned that you're part of the BMF race team. What does this actually mean? Is it like BMF have put together a team of awesome people and it's a way to promote kind of BMF within the races, or is it something different? Is it something bigger than that as being part of the BMF race team?
Well, we formed the team, just a group of friends. So John, Ross, myself, we were racing together anyway. And as you probably know, racing can be quite expensive. If you're travelling constantly, just buying kit, constantly buying entrance, especially obstacle races, it can be 100, 150 quid for a race. So we formed the team mainly to try and cut down our costs. And my friend Claire Miller, she was a badass, so we thought we needed a good female, brought her on board, and we've then just grown it from there. And because a lot of the training we were doing was pretty military fitness classes, we thought it made sense to actually ask them and almost formalise it and say, hey guys, come on, we're already training with you. If you want to be good at obstacle racing, the type of training that you do is perfect for getting your body ready for obstacles, straight into intense running, and kind of all over core. So why don't we actually now it's a mixture of friends. We've just brought on a new member, a guy called Sean, who was a BMF member. He's now joined the team. We've got another place still open, ideally probably for a female, another strong female, but it's now a collection of friends who do BMF classes and go out and race in numerous sports to represent the brand more than anything else, but ideally to show that you can have fun and still do well.
Wow. Okay. I can imagine that as a result of going from pub drinker, quiz player, darts aficionado, your nutrition has changed an awful lot to kind of help you with all these races and stuff. What I'm interested actually, because I'm always interested at where people go for their information. When you were getting serious, you're like, right, I'm running now, I need to eat better, I need to recover, I need to refuel. Where did you reach out to for your information? Where did you start to build your nutrition journey, and almost where have you ended up with it? Talk me through that.
That's a really good question, actually. I think a lot of people, it's just hearsay a lot of the time. I joined a running club called Heathside, and just being a member of something like British Image Fitness or a local running club, a local team, you then get the collective knowledge of everyone around you. But a lot of it was because I started training hard, should we say, maybe 7-8 years ago. And the internet was obviously, a big thing, but I wouldn't say that they have the amount of information out that they do now. So I read things like Runner's World. I just Google questions. I'm quite geeky at heart and quite meticulous when it comes to preparation. So I still drink a huge amount. I love what I call shitbox chicken, which is basically any chicken that's a lower standard than KFC. Still love that. And if you look at 60-70% of my diet, it is horrific. But the other 30% is exactly what I need. And I'm quite lucky as a long distance runner that part of what I need is just huge amounts of calories and huge amounts of carbs. So as long as I'm getting good protein, and that I'm getting a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit to get my vitamins and minerals, I only really focus on my diet. Some small things, maybe a post-recovery drink, a Cliff Bar or something like that. But I only really focus on my diet the week before a race. Outside of that, I just eat lots of carbs and eat what I want, really.
So, okay, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Talk me through. So your mindset is that I do this more than anything for fun. I also challenge myself physically. I want to do better. I want to be better. But you're not almost trying to be a world champion by the sounds of it. Now, because of that mindset, do you kind of say, well, because I'm doing this for fun, because I love my life, I do like drinking, I do like having a bit of bad food, are you almost happy to almost make those compromises? Because me sitting here as a nutritionist right now, I could probably say, well, oh, David, you should probably do this, and actually you should probably not eat that, and that kind of stuff. I could say that, but it sounds like where you're at and what you're facilitating, you're actually happy.
No, actually, I guess that's probably what most people think, but maybe I'm just doing it wrong. I train myself incredibly hard, and the people know me as someone who is a bit of a joker and a bit of a party animal, but that is post-race, and maybe I'm missing vital elements in my nutrition, and that's the thing about nutrition. There's so much differing information out there that so many people think they're right, and it's very hard to know exactly what is right for you. So I do what I think is the best for me to race there, to my utmost. I mean, when I've been running this year sometimes 120, 125 miles a week, plus cross training, plus some cycling as well. And so you need to be on top of your nutrition for that. But then at times I would come home and just be a bit hungry and just eat an entire tub of ice cream and just think, that was pretty sweet. And while I'm sure there's some bad things in there, part of me, rightly or wrongly, thinks, yeah, there's quite a bit of fat in that, but that is going to be gone by the morning. And so maybe I could be, if I was an Olympic athlete, I might be do things slightly different, but I do think I fuel my body fairly well. I'm hoping, if you can tell me I'm doing something completely wrong, that's brilliant.
No, and this is why I'm asking the question, because especially my podcast, we're now 197 episodes in. Yeah. There's a lot of educated people listening to this. They know what they're doing, but there's a lot of fitness dogma, as you've said, of this is right, this is wrong, let's be exact, let's be perfect. And you've already said, well, what I do I know isn't quite perfect, but actually it's working. I don't have a reason to refine it anymore. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm performing well. So despite the dogma, the information, misinformation, correctness or incorrectness, I'm getting the results that I expect from what I'm putting in while still being able to live my life. And that's what I'm almost wanting people to hear, and you kind of confirming that for me, for the audience, because I think it's important that you've rationalised what you do and are actually happy with the choices.
Yeah, and I think actually what you said is you've hit the nail on the head in many ways. It's not just about nutrition, but about training as well. Because realistically, if you want to try and train as a top athlete, unless you're a full-time athlete, you've got to find a way to work within the rest of your life. And so, yeah, part of, I don't know if it's necessarily a compromise, but I'll go to Glastonbury and I'll go full throttle. Sometimes I've done an all-nighter and I've not slept at all, and I've gone for a 20-mile run in the morning on a Sunday morning of Glastonbury, and it's been an enlightening experience. But it's something I'm prepared to do, and actually I quite like it. It's your body. You learn about your body, and if you think a race is hard, it's fine, because if you have to deal with dehydration, if you have to deal with low energy, try doing it after an all-nighter at Glastonbury, and suddenly everything else seems sweet. And so I try and be good with my nutrition, but I know myself well enough that if I say to myself, I'm only having these foods, and same likewise as in training, if I'm not going to go out on this night, if I'm not going to drink that, then the result will be for 2 weeks I'll do that, and then one night I'll just go off the charts and do an all-night bender. I won't train in the morning. I'll just eat kebabs and all this. And so I found the compromise where I think I can train to 95%, and I can have the nutrition to perform to 95% of my perfection without compromising on my lifestyle. And that means I can train consistently well and eat consistently well because it fits with how I want to live my life.
Okay, so you've talked about like almost pre-race, during race, around this kind of race window, and we've kind of delved into your lifestyle, which is already an interesting point for me. What then changes in that build-up to the week? What do you tighten up? What do you get meticulous about that you feel needs to be done for you to perform well?
Actually, it just comes down to probably not even a week. It's probably only 2 days. I mean, I taper off for my training if I've got a big race, but I'll make sure I don't have like a heavy boozing session 2 days before or a day before, and then the day before I'll carb load like a steam. In fact, actually, I'll do I love in terms of performance, I hate in terms of taste, the beetroot diet, where you take on 250 grams of beetroot a day for 5 days to get your nitrates rocketing. So I'm also pretty skint quite often. So I don't do the drink because it's so expensive. I just take the raw beetroot from Lidl's, and my missus, she finds it hilarious and also horrifying because I just sit there eating these raw beetroot or boiled beetroot each night with a miserable look on my face. So I do that for 5 days. The day before, I'll eat around 550, 600 grams of carbs spread over the day. That will be made up of kind of things like sorrine. I love Lidl's toffee popcorn, pretzels, bagels, cinnamon bagels, incredible, and even some sweets and stuff. And then that night, I'll take some Imodium in the morning, 2 bagels, 1 banana, and then race.
Now, judging from what we've already been talking about, you enjoy alcohol, you train hard, you eat a lot of calories, which ensures it sounds like you're performing well purely by sheer calorie volume. It sounds like you're quite an adaptive individual. Sounds like you process alcohol quite well, you adapt to training quite quickly, your body utilises carbohydrates for fuel very easily. And the reason why I want people to understand that is not, if I took that approach, I wouldn't be able to feel as good as you do.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean other people can't fuel in that kind of way. But for me, I don't metabolize alcohol very well. If I have 3 drinks plus, the next day I'll feel groggy and not want to train, or won't train effectively. Now I think that's different because I play a very CNS-driven sport, or if I'm in the gym, actually going for a run. I don't want to make it sound like it's easier, but I think running is a bit easier when you're feeling a bit tired because you almost get into it. You might start off a bit slow, a bit sluggish, and then your body almost wakes up, energy starts being processed, and you kind of get into a flow. But when you've got to lift or punch or hit or be aggressive, it's a lot harder when your body's not refreshed.
Yeah, that certainly could be. I mean, some runs are just time on your feet. It's a long run.
Yeah.
The speed is almost irrelevant sometimes because it's just getting your body used to being out there. But actually, a lot of it is, as you said, it's what your body's used to. And in the same way that some people have all fat diet to an ultra marathon, I would never be able to do that because my body's not been trained for it. And my body is used. It's spent many more years as a drinker than as a non-drinker. And so for me, when I started running, at no point did I ever cut down on that. So my body's probably adapted to just being used to that. And thankfully, it means I can go out and have fun. But actually, most of our team are fairly similar. We're quite a social group, and we certainly go harder than any of our competition after the event, I'd say.
See, I'm gonna retract part of my comment because you've just brought up a very good point in that if we want to train our body to a stress, we've got to repeatedly stress the body in that manner. It's like, let's take a manual labourer. I might go and start working as a bricklayer. The second day after my first day of bricklaying, I'm going to be sore. My back's going to hurt. My hands are going to be sore, everything. But after I'm 2-3 weeks in, I'm not going to feel that pain. The body's going to have adapted. I'm going to have got stronger. I'm going to have got a better engine. It's the same with alcohol. When I was at university, I used to drink a good 3 times, maybe 4 times a week in my first year. And actually, to be honest, I would get up the next day and I would go and rugby train. I would go in the gym. I would go and do that. But when I left uni and I was thinking about my career and my health more and all that kind of stuff, then I had a lot less alcohol and I had a lot better food. And again, it's an adaptation thing. So actually, because I drink a lot rarely now, if I do, there's a lot more stress there and the body has to deal with it and work harder purely because it's an adaptive thing. But you have gone, well, I'm not going to give up that. I'm going to keep drinking. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep taking this. And actually, my body has adapted.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, no doubt, if I completely cut booze, my body would probably perform at a slightly high level. And when I'm training really hard, I just don't have the time to be out drinking heavily anyway. And actually, even eating the amount of calories you have, you almost have to have some unhealthy food to try and get that level of calories in. So it's not as if when I'm peak training, I'm out every night. But I think you also need to have an outlet. And when you're training hard, you need to have that moment when you feel as if, right, I've earned this. And sometimes it's the race itself. It's when you perform well, that is a huge release. But if you're training on a 16-week program, you need little bits along the way where you're like, okay, I'm having fun now.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, and sometimes I think in fitness there is a lack of fun because we get so into the fitness that we actually forget about all the things that we did before fitness that we enjoyed, and some of the things we might not have enjoyed, but there's a balance to be struck here, and I would argue that you might be on what fitness would deem more the extreme side of balance, but that doesn't matter because it's balance for you, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at for the audience here, that I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. What I do is different to you, what you do is different to other people, and everyone needs to find the sweet spot of where they want to live their life, be happy, but also be happy with the results. So results-wise, if you were sitting there, David, right now going, well, I do all this, but I'm not happy with my output, then you can't complain, right? Because you're not putting in what you expect out, but you're getting out what you expect you're putting in. So it doesn't matter. It's end of conversation. It's when people have a different expectation.
Yeah, and I've completely, when I first trained hard for a marathon, I gave up booze for 3-4 months, and my performance, I didn't see a difference, and emotionally though, I just wasn't having a great time. I just thought, I'm not going to continue being a runner if this is what I have to sacrifice.
Okay, when you do some of the longer races, you've mentioned that you've now got to you've got more into ultra endurance, which is mental at the best of times. Again, does your nutrition change at all? Is there almost a bigger carb load? Do you try and take on certain amounts or types of fuel during the race? Is there a slightly different strategy at all?
Yeah, I mean, the carb load hasn't changed. I'll only carb load if I'm doing 10 miles or more in a race. Less than that, and I don't think there's a huge amount of point. I'm quite scientific about and in some ways I'm a marketing dream when I'm racing. If I'm doing half marathon up to a marathon, I'll just do pure carbs. It used to be gels when I was younger, but I find that now I love Cliff shot blocks. I find they're just easy to take on because you don't have to have a whole gel in once. You can do a block at a time. Helps break the run up, and they're a lot easier to carry as well. But I'll take on a lot of energy, so I'll go for my 60 grams of carbs an hour. If there's a drink involved, if I can do that, I'll try and go up by putting maltodextrin, having the dual carb sources. When I've gone longer distances, I did the Marathon des Sables this year, and that was different because it's 5 days of racing, and when you're running, you're not just fueling to perform in that race, you're also fueling to recover to perform for 4 more days or for 3 more days. And so there's a big difference there. The main one being that I started taking on protein throughout because I was wanting my muscles to recover quickly. I'm pretty good at having a recovery drink at the end of an intense session, either that or something like a Cliff Bar, or even if I've got nothing to hand, something like sushi, your 3-to-1 carbs to protein. But on the MDS, the Marathon des Sables, I started taking my recovery towards the end of the race because I wasn't running so intensely that I couldn't start, it wasn't going to upset my stomach. And the good thing about, as soon as you get further than a marathon, your pace isn't hard enough, really, that you're going to have stomach problems. So you can be a little bit more varied in what you eat, and you can take on more complex foods. So I'd switched from just shot blocks to having bars and blocks as well, so there's a bit of variety. I think if I was to do it again, I'd take something a little bit more savoury because you just get sick of sweet carbs 5-6 days. And if you're doing an ultramarathon, you'll see this actually on the tables they have. They quite often have fuel stops where they'll have anything from a sausage roll to crisps to soup. And I'd recommend not just thinking about the nutritional composition, but also thinking about a little bit of variety. It can become a little bit of a slog, fairly dull mentally, And so if you know that 30 miles in, you're suddenly going to have your favourite whatever it is, and you've kept it, and it might not be the perfect nutrition for you, as long as it's not horrifically bad, and actually even on ultras you're burning slightly more ratio of fat anyway, then nutrition changes from just being about fueling you physically to also fueling you mentally, because having something to look forward to and then the powerful positive emotion you get from having your favourite pepperoni or whatever it may be, it's just as powerful in a long distance race as the benefits of the fuel for your muscles.
So over these 6 days, how many miles were you doing a day in this race?
It averages about, I can't remember how much, the maths probably a marathon a day. So it was 21, 25, 22, okay. 52, 26. So they're all quite punchy. They're all at the level where you're if you don't judge it properly, you could hit the wall.
Yeah, sure. Well, you just mentioned mental, just from the aspect of food, which I fully appreciate. With some of these ultra events, how much is mental more than the physical? Because you did, just looking at my notes, the Special Forces experience.
Yeah.
Now, that there must have been, firstly, talk us through the Special Forces experience, what you learned, what it was like, what it was, and then how much of that was the mental over the physical, because there is a point where your body is saying no, and you have to be in a position where your mind can say yes.
Yeah, it was a TV show called Ultimate Hell Week Special Forces, or Special Forces Ultimate Hell Week. The concept behind it was 6 different special forces from around the world, and you do 2 days of their selection process of each. And every 2 days, well, in fact, throughout they just cut people off the show. So I sadly didn't make it that far. I made it 5 days, so made it through 3 of them. But it was pretty much non-stop. So on camera, you'd see people do the big showstopper exercises where there'd be a task for your team or for the individuals and you'd compete. But actually, it was the off-camera that was really killed you, because if someone says go and run a distance or go and lift this log between you and take it that far, you do it. But when you're just doing endless sit-ups, press-ups, or just actually holding your gun up, wow, that was a killer. Those are the things that drain you, because there's no end in sight. You haven't got a goal. You're just doing it and doing it and doing it, and you're genuinely scared. If I'm first to drop, if I can't carry on, I'm off the show. Yeah. And so you're just constantly on the edge of just not physically being able to do something. And that was interesting because we didn't have enough food throughout the show. Some people were fine with that, actually. I ended up eating out of bins, and I was quite lucky in that Claire, teammate on the BMF team, who actually won it, she was there as well, and her friend Lucy and a few others. So I was scrounging food left, right and centre. But I think nutrition and tiredness come into play. They do link with each other, but tiredness as well. If you're not getting food, then the tiredness hits you even harder. And when you're not concentrating, you lose your form, but also in a TV show like that, you suddenly get things wrong and you have to do more punishments. But the nutrition side of things, it's simple because you had no choice. Well, the only choice I had was I was stealing sugar packets the whole way through from cups of tea, put them in a bag so I could have sugar shots. But other than that, and that was slightly illegal, I think. Well, no one on the show knew, thankfully. But other than that, the nutrition, you had no input into it. So you just had to carry on going. And you could see by the last shows, I went after the third, but the last shows, it was all the endurance athletes who were performing well. The triathletes, the runners, because I think they're just used to performing constantly, day in, day out, when there's nothing left.
So, if you don't mind me asking, you went out on day 5 that you said Like, why? What happened? What was the thing that broke you, or whatever?
Oh,
I apologise because I haven't watched the show. So
yeah, no problem. I think they're on YouTube somewhere, but rather embarrassingly, I went out because of press ups. So, yeah, I was the first person forced off the show as such. People generally we've eliminated or quit or injured, and I just couldn't do enough press ups. We had. I'm not sure if I was targeted as part of the story or just it was a coincidence, but it seemed I did my shoulder a little bit from all the log carries, and then the Filipino Navy SEAL commander, he said when you introduce to your commander, you do 20 press ups as a group, which is obviously fine, except as a group you have to go down, up, 1, down, up, 2. You get to 9, then you go 10, and then you go back to 1, then you go to 20. So you go 9, 20, 1. And so during the course of that, people make many, many mistakes. So you end up doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 press-ups every time you see the guy. And then when you're punished, you do more press-ups. And the day before, we'd had the Israeli guy, so we'd had to do 100 press-ups in one go. We'd been punished 50 press-ups in another go. And I just couldn't do any more press-ups. And so I think he wanted to get people out because very few people had failed or been injured out during the course of his selection. So he did the let's do 20 press ups, but then he changed it and said we'll do it until one person can't do any more, and I was the first person to drop. So he then said, right, Hellard, we had this big shouting match which they didn't really show on camera because he was accusing me of not being able to do press ups. I'm like, I can't do press ups, I just can't do any more press ups now. And so he made me do 20 more, and I did those, and then he said do 50 more. And I couldn't do those, but obviously they edited it to look as if I couldn't do 2 or 3 press ups. So ever since then, my life has been haunted by. In fact, at the Marathon des Sables, when I finished the Marathon des Sables, I did press ups on the finish line, and then swore to the camera about this guy because everyone keeps on going about press ups with me. Which somebody does British military fitness, it's a core part of what we do. You know, I'm obviously a runner, so my upper body's a bit rubbish. But yeah, it's as simple as that, sadly.
Hilarious. Alright, I want to get onto the topic of kind of like outdoor training because I think I'm a big fan of people being in the gym, getting stronger, learning about their body, moving, like working on biomechanics. All of that is really cool, but I'm equally a fan of getting outdoors, doing sports, doing races, challenging yourself. For you, what do you think is so beneficial about this aspect of training that I don't think is popularised in fitness enough? Because there seems to be, a lot of the time, there seems to be like the gym crowd, the boot camp crowd, this crowd, and there's not enough of a mixture. Like, I cannot imagine not having sport in my life. It connects you to things, it gives you purpose. Give me your opinion on why you think variety, outdoor training, challenging yourself is important for people.
Well, I think probably for me it's 2 things. One of them is convenience, and one of them is 3 things. One's convenience, one's money, and one is also what you are trying to achieve from your training. So for me, I fit my training into my week. I run to work. I've just run home now from a conference where I'll borrow a bike between work meetings. And what I love about running, but also training outdoors, is that I can be at Stag Do Stag Do this weekend out in Sicily. Just needed a pair of trainers, and I can find hills, bang, doing hill reps, or I can just go for a lovely run along the beach. So for me, a lot of training is convenience, but also because of what I'm trying to achieve in either obstacle racing or in adventure racing or in ultramarathon. If I'm in a gym to gain muscle, then I'm either gaining muscle that might not be dynamic performance muscle, or I might be putting on weight that is actually going to slow me down. And so what's great about most outdoor fitness is that it's using body weight. So it's a pull-up bar, or it's burpees, or you're doing a tug of war with a friend, or you're piggybacking someone. And so very rarely are you putting on such bulky muscle that it will slow you down as well. And actually, if you look at John Albon, who's the best in the world at obstacle racing, I mean, he's phenomenally strong, but it's nearly all body weight that he's doing, because on an obstacle course, other than the odd carry that you have to do of maybe a barrel or a sandbag, whatever it may be, you're just moving your body as efficiently and as quickly up, under, over, round obstacles. And so you only really need to move your own body. And anything that's muscle that is extra is just extra weight to carry. So for me, it's efficiency as well, in that I'm building a body that's perfect for what I'm trying to do. And the risk of going in the gym is either building muscle that's not going to be useful for obstacles, or it's just extra muscle that's just unnecessary.
Do you not think there's a big community element to it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of my training is by myself, because I'm running to work or I'm running to a gig or a friend's house. But yeah, the two elements I have. One's British Fitness. One is running in a running club, and the running club's great because I'm running with friends, and I get to chat to them, which makes it easier. It's variety, but also me talking about running can be pretty dull if you're not a runner, and so I can have all my dull chats that I love about running with people who love it. BMF it's social. You can often go. I've got a lot of friends now from training together, but also, the reason why people have personal trainers in the gym rather than going to a gym is why I do BMF. Is because I will never push myself as hard by myself. I could go out there and just do some sit-ups, some shuttle runs, take a sandbag, and I'm never going to push my hard as intensely as when I'm with a group of people that I'm competitive with, but also having a trainer who, the BMF guys, they know me now, they know my strengths, they know my weaknesses, but most importantly, they know when I'm being lazy, and they'll kick me up the arse if I need to. And so that social aspect is not only more fun, but it also pushes you harder. And that's, if you're looking to get these 1 or 2% gains in your training, it's those gains. Those gains come from being competitive with other people, and there's been study after study that show that the concept of pain and how you perceive pain changes when you're with other people. If you're running by yourself or you're running with someone else, if you're running neck and neck, you're not going to feel as if the pain's as bad as if you're running the same speed by yourself.
I think that's a brilliant point. I don't know when I've been in the gym. It's easy to just pick any exercise, bicep curl. It's easy to just isolate that and work really hard because there's actually such a low measure of pain. But when you have got to sprint somewhere, pick something up, carry something, maybe do an extra length that you wouldn't usually do, there's no way you can train yourself as hard as you would in an environment. Like, I will never push myself harder than when my rugby coach is saying, again, lift, run, hit, up, down, hit, run, back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that on my own. The body will say, hang on, why am I doing this? I'm by myself in a field with a bag in mud. You are going to stop. And I think the reason why I bring up the point is, and I think I did a video very recently on this on Facebook, is I just want to make people think why they're doing things and how they're always applying it, because we go in the gym, we get stronger, and I almost think it's maybe a little bit of a waste as well, that we get strength and we get power and we don't actually apply it. We don't show ourselves that, this is what it's made me do. Like, if you were doing obstacle races, then you joined BMF, you did boot camp, you did 3 months, and then you went back and did a new obstacle race, you could then say, well, actually, the rope ladder felt easier, the run felt easier, I felt stronger in the dying minutes. All that stuff, you prove to yourself that the fitness is applicable rather than just like numbers, sets and reps, which I think can come become very stale very quickly.
Yeah, and exactly. It gives you a reason to do something. It gives you a focus, gives you a goal. And actually part of, I'm quite lazy sometimes as well. Just having a set class time. If I have to think tonight I've got to go out and I've got to run this many reps, or I've got to go and do this many push-ups, it just sits there thinking, oh, you just sit at the back of your mind thinking, oh, and I end up doing it the last thing in the evening. Whereas if I go to a BMF class and it starts at 6:30, I go there for 6:30, I don't even think about it, just turn up, and then you do it. The same if I'm going for an interval session on the track, just turn up at 7, and you do it. It removes that decision from your life, because you're just turning up to a class rather than having to force yourself to do the actual reps.
But I think this is a nice point about you're being 100% honest with yourself in that you've said, I am lazy.
Yeah.
So because of that, I'm going to put this process into place, which means I get the most out of my body and I do what I need to do and work around what I believe in. It's like people join a gym, they start doing the gym thing, and they can't stick to it because they get bored and laziness takes over, social life takes over, and then guilt creeps in. It's like, well, Dave can go to the gym every day. Why aren't I motivated to do that? And you are different to Dave. I'm different to Dave. I'm different to Jane. But as long as we're honest with ourselves and say, right, I can't do that. I find it boring. Doesn't motivate me. You've got to put yourself in an environment where you can succeed. And that's not a bad thing. It's just working to how your body and your mind is set up.
Yeah, and it's almost tricking yourself into doing things. It's just a mini. I mean, I've got lots of little rules that I follow. So if I'm racing, for example, I'm allowed to walk, but I'm not allowed to walk uphill unless it's quicker to walk. And that might not make sense to everyone, but I know that if I've run the uphills, I'm going to run everything else. And so it means when I get to that uphill, I just think, I've just got to run this and then I can walk. Once I'm at the top, I'm going to run anyway. But it's a lot easier to just think, I've got to do that bit, than to have the rule, I could never walk. Because then for the rest of this race, I could never walk. And it just seems impossible. Whereas just this hill, then I can walk. And I think a lot of training is finding out what works for you and almost designing your schedule, designing your life, or tricking yourself into ways in which you're going to train when you don't want to train. And that's when you get the real top performance, is when I was reading I was reading the other day. There's this great quote that was, Olympic medals are won on a wet Tuesday afternoon. And I think, we're not going to win Olympic medals ourselves, but if you want to perform well, it's when you're doing things when you don't want to be. And you can do that either by sheer determination, or you can just be honest with yourself and think of ways in which you can build it into your life so that it's easier for you to be training on a wet Tuesday afternoon, because either you've booked a class already, or you're training with a friend, or you've got a very specific target that you really want to do.
Nice, David. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm gonna wrap up there. I think we've gone over some real, and the reason why I've enjoyed this chat is because I think we've talked about something that's so extreme in its environment and its application, but made it so real and accessible to a lot of people, and kind of allowed people to kind of say, well, I can try that. I can do this. I can maybe balance that. I know we talk about optimal a lot in fitness, but optimal is what really works for you.
Yeah.
And it's all a personal thing, and I just want people to understand that. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong way. There's a right way for you, and people just need to go on their own journey to discover that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the difference between theoretical peak performance and practical peak performance.
So, I mean, if people look as a result of today's chat, think about your training, think about what you're doing, think about your application. Maybe set yourself a target, maybe join an obstacle race, maybe join something like a BMF boot camp, maybe join a cycling class, whatever it might be. Try and think about what you're getting out of your training, whether you are getting the expected results, Whether you think, well, actually, I need to be part of something, I need to have a bigger goal, then do that. And if that goal changes every year, like I know people, and David, you're probably the same, like you'll do one race and then you're like, cool, conquered that, done it. Now I'm going to try this mad thing, and then I'm going to try that, because it's just another thing for you to work towards. And as long as it's keeping you happy, healthy, driven, competitive, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to have a reason. And, well, you just need something in your diary, don't you? Because training for the sake of training is pointless.
David, if people want to come and find you, where can they go to? You've already said you've got a podcast. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram? Give people your links and stuff.
Yeah, well, the Bad Boy Running podcast is probably the main one, or the British Military Fitness Race Team. So, Bad Boy Running, in fact, if you type that in, it's on iTunes, it's on, I don't really know that much about the other stuff, Stitcher, is it? British Military Fitness Race Team Facebook page. I've also got a race page, David Hellard. It's more of a piss take, really. It's not that serious. But yeah, if people have got any questions, then feel free to email me directly, or go on the British Military Fitness Race Team. We the good thing is, if you email there, we've got Ross, who's especially specialist in triathlons. You've got Freya, who's UK champ and working mother, and so we've got all these different viewpoints as well to help you.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
For people that are interested in checking David out, check out his podcast, Bad Boy Running. I'm sure it is very interesting and probably quite light-hearted, like this show, which is always good. Again, I know we've mentioned BMF a lot. That's because I'm the nutritionist. David's part of their race team. They do great boot camps. Check them out. Check out some obstacle races. Think about how you're going to challenge yourself in the future. And I will talk to you on next week's podcast on Monday. That's goodbye from me. David, say goodbye to everyone.
Bye, everyone.
And in the meantime, stay awesome. Hey everyone, this is Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 196. Now, the last 2 weeks I've put out 2 shows.